The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 Dominion had never known defeat. Their empire stretched across 1,000 systems, their warships unstoppable, their conquests absolute. When they descended upon a civilization, it was not a battle, it was an erasure. Their vessels, sleek and black as void stone, moved with predatory grace, their adaptive shielding shrugging off plasma cannons, their self-repairing hulls mending faster than any weapon could damage them. Entire species had knelt before them, their fleets reduced to scrap in minutes, their worlds left as silent graves. And now, they had come for humanity. The outer colonies fell first. New Geneva, Haven, 9, the Centauri outposts, each was crushed beneath the Dominion's advance. No negotiations, no demands. Just annihilation. Earth's scattered forces tried to rally, but the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 moved like a force of nature, their tactics flawless, their technology insurmountable. The UNS Titan was one of the last. A battle-scarred dreadnought, its armor pitted from a dozen skirmishes, its engines running on fumes. Commander Elias Vance stood on the bridge, his jaw set, his eyes locked on the tactical display. A refugee convoy, 3 civilian ships carrying the last survivors of 𝗕𝗲𝘀, limped behind them. They wouldn't make it to the next jump point. Not without time the Titan couldn't give them. Then the void rippled. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀 dreadnought emerged from warp, its obsidian hull swallowing the starlight. It dwarfed the Titan, its weapon arrays humming to life. A transmission crackled over the comms. No video, just a cold, synthetic voice. Asterisk, human vessel. Power down your systems. Surrender your occupants for processing. This is your only warning. Asterisk. Vance didn't hesitate. Helm, evasive pattern Delta. Comms, open a channel to the convoy. Tell them to run. Now. The Titan banked hard, its thrusters flaring as it positioned itself between the refugees and the 𝗕𝗲𝘀. The alien ship didn't pursue the civilians. It didn't need to. It would destroy the Titan first, then hunt down the convoy at its leisure. Vance's fingers danced across the tactical console. Lieutenant 𝗬𝘬, divert all non-essential power to engines. We're not fighting this thing head-on. 𝗬𝘬's voice was tight. Sir, even at full burn, we can't outrun them. I know. Vance's gaze flicked to the star chart. A neutron star loomed nearby, its gravitational pull warping space around it. A death trap for any ship that strayed too close. A death trap, or an opportunity. Set course for the accretion disk, Vance ordered. Full speed. The bridge crew exchanged glances. No one questioned him. The Titan surged forward, the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 dreadnought following without hesitation. The aliens had seen this before, a desperate retreat, a doomed last stand. They expected panic, blind firing, a final, futile barrage before the kill. They didn't expect what came next. The Titan plunged into the neutron star's gravity well, its hull groaning under the strain. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 ship pursued, its shields flaring as it navigated the turbulent space. Vance allowed himself a grim smile. Now the real fight began. The Titan shuddered as it skimmed the accretion disk, the neutron star's gravity clawing at its hull. Alarms blared, structural integrity failing, engines overheating. The crew braced against the violent tremors, but Vance remained steady, his eyes locked on the tactical feed. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 dreadnought followed, its massive frame slicing through the stellar debris with contemptuous ease. Shields at 40%, 𝗬𝘬 reported. Their weapons are charging. They'll have a firing solution in 30 seconds. Vance didn't respond. He watched the enemy ship's movements, the way it adjusted its trajectory, the slight delay in its thrusters as it compensated for the star's pull. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 were fast, precise, but they weren't perfect. Their arrogance was their weakness. They expected a straight fight. Helm, Vance said, cut engines on my mark. The pilot's hands hovered over the controls. Sir. Let them think we're dead in the water. The Titan's thrusters sputtered and died. The ship lurched, caught in the star's gravitational current, drifting like wreckage. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 vessel slowed, its weapon ports glowing brighter, preparing for the kill shot. Now. The Titan's engines roared back to life, its thrusters burning at emergency output. The ship veered sharply, using the neutron star's gravity to slingshot around the dreadnought's flank. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 ship pivoted, but too late. Human reflexes were faster than AI calculations in chaotic space. Target their ventral array, Vance ordered. Kinetic barrage, full spread. The Titanus railguns unleashed a storm of tungsten rods, each one a fist-sized projectile accelerated to relativistic speeds. No energy signature, no plasma trail, just raw, brutal physics. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 shields flared, but they were tuned to absorb directed energy, not solid mass. The first rod punched through, then another. A sound like thunder echoed through the dreadnought's hull as the projectiles tore into its armor. For the first time in centuries, the ship blunted. On the Titanus bridge, the crew watched in stunned silence as the alien vessel listed, its pristine black hull now scarred, its systems flickering. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 commander's voice crackled over the comms, no longer calm. This is impossible. Vance allowed himself a cold smile. You don't know humans very well. The dreadnought's weapons reoriented, its adaptive systems scrambling to compensate. But Vance wasn't waiting. Helm, get us behind them again. Weapons, reload kinetics, and prep the EMP charges. The Titan dove back into the storm, the star's radiation masking its signature. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 ship fired blindly, its perfect precision shattered. For the first time in their long, merciless history, the Dominion was on the defensive. And humanity wasn't done yet. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 dreadnought systems flickered as emergency protocols fought to stabilize the damage. Its commander watched in disbelief as the human vessel, smaller, weaker, inferior, danced just beyond reach, exploiting blind spots their engineers had deemed impossible to target. The Dominion had never needed contingency plans. Until now. A new signal cut through the interference, an incoming warp signature. Then another. 2 more dreadnoughts emerged from the void, their sleek forms blotting out the stars. Reinforcements. The trap had reversed. Vance's fingers tightened around the armrest of his command chair. The Titan was already running on fumes, overloaded reactors, failing shields, half its weapons offline. 1 dreadnought had nearly broken them. 3 was annihilation. Commander, 𝗕𝗲𝘀 said quietly, the convoy's clear. They made the jump. That was something. But it wouldn't matter if the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 tracked their vector. The Dominion didn't take prisoners. Vance studied the tactical display. The new dreadnoughts moved to flank, cutting off escape. Standard doctrine, crush the enemy between overlapping fields of fire. Predictable. Open a channel, he said. All frequencies. Static hissed, then his voice echoed across the void. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 command. You wanted a fight? You're about to get one. A pause. Then the lead dreadnought responded, its tone dripping with disdain. You amuse us, human. Your defiance changes nothing. Vance smirked. Then why send 3 ships? He cut the transmission before they could reply. Helm, he said, set collision course for the nearest dreadnought. Full burn. The bridge crew froze. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 turned slowly. Sir, that's suicide. No, Vance said. It's a distraction. He tapped a sequence into his console. Arming warp core overload. Eject all non-essential modules, life pods included. Understanding dawned. The Titan wouldn't survive this. But neither would they. The ship surged forward, a wounded beast charging its hunter. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 vessels adjusted instantly, weapons locking on. They expected desperation. They didn't expect the Titan's ejected modules to explode in sequence, decoy flares masking the real threat. The lead dreadnought fired. Plasma tore through the Titan's hull. Alarms wailed. Atmosphere vented. Vance ignored it all, watching the distance counter tick down. 500 meters. 300. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 realized too late. Their shields flared as the Titan rammed them bow first, the warp core detonating in a sunbright blast. The resulting singularity lasted only seconds, but it was enough. The dreadnoughts shattered remained spiraled into the collapsing gravity well. The other 2 ships veered wildly, caught in the event horizon's pull. One escaped, shields failing, armor buckling. The other vanished without a trace. Silence settled over the Titan's broken bridge. Smoke curled from shattered consoles. The stars spun lazily through the cracked viewport. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 coughed blood. Did we just win? Vance leaned back in his chair, staring at the wreckage. "No," he said softly. "But we just taught the galaxy how to." The last transmission burst from the dying ship, echoing across every open channel. Asterisk, "Humanity doesn't bow." Asterisk. Then static. Then nothing. The silence didn't last. Across 100 star systems, the message propagated through rebel networks and pirate relays, bouncing off derelict comm buoys and hidden listening posts. The final transmission of the UNS Titan became a spark in dry tinder. On 𝗕𝗲occupied New Carthage, a slave miner heard the words through a smuggled receiver. He looked down at the shock collar on his neck, then at the overseer's plasma whip. That night, 300 prisoners used mining charges to blow open the armory. In the free colonies, where human refugees huddled behind makeshift defenses, shipyard engineers studied sensor logs of the battle. They noticed the exact moment the 𝗕𝗲 shields had failed. Within weeks, crude kinetic accelerators were being bolted onto civilian freighters. The Dominion High Command convened an emergency session. Battle simulations were run, then run again. The results remained unchanged. Human unpredictability couldn't be modeled. Their analysts had studied 1,000 conquered species, but none had ever turned their own annihilation into a weapon. Near the neutron star's accretion disk, salvage teams found twisted wreckage, both 𝗕𝗲 and human fused together by the warp core's detonation. One recovery drone extracted a blackened data core from the Titan's ruins. When engineers cracked it open, they found no grand strategy, no secret weapon schematics. Just a single text file. Asterisk, if you're reading this, you outlasted them. Now go make it hurt. Asterisk. The message spread faster than the Dominion could suppress it. On a dozen worlds, suppressed species looked at their oppressors and realized something fundamental had changed. The 𝗕𝗲 weren't invincible. They could bleed. And humanity had shown how to make them do it. A 𝗕𝗲 defector, one of the first in their history, hijacked a scout ship and fled to human space. When interrogated, they kept repeating the same phrase, asterisk, "You fight wrong. You were supposed to die." Asterisk. Earth's remaining admirals studied the Titan's last battle. They noticed something the 𝗕𝗲 had missed. Vance hadn't just attacked. He'd left instructions. The neutron star maneuver, the kinetic weapons, the sacrificial warp core detonation, it was all a blueprint. 3 standard months after the battle, a coalition of rebel forces ambushed a Dominion supply fleet near 𝗕𝗲-Draconis. They used stolen freighters, jury-rigged railguns, and one repurposed mining barge with its reactor set to overload. The 𝗕𝗲 lost 8 ships that day. On what remained of the Titan's bridge, floating in permanent orbit around the neutron star, someone had etched words into the bulkhead where Vance's command chair had been. Asterisk. They told us we were outnumbered. We liked those odds. Asterisk. The galaxy burned. And for the first time in millennia, the fire wasn't the 𝗕𝗲's to control. The fires of rebellion spread like supernovae across the Orion arm. On 𝗕𝗲-controlled Vesta Prime, a human slave revolt turned the Dominion's own neural shock collars against them, overloading the devices to fry their overseers' nervous systems. The survivors broadcast their defiance on stolen comms arrays, their voices raw with triumph. Asterisk, come and take it back. Asterisk. The free colony's makeshift fleet grew teeth. Salvage destroyers and refitted freighters formed wolf packs that struck Dominion supply lines, vanishing before reinforcements arrived. Their tactics evolved daily: improvised EMP bursts to disable shields, boarding pods launched from asteroid shadows, entire battles faked using holographic decoys. A 𝗕𝗲 admiral broke protocol during a high command briefing, slamming his fist against the war table. Asterisk. They don't fight like soldiers. They fight like vermin. Asterisk. The Dominion's response was swift and brutal. They glassed 3 human outposts, vaporized the rebel-held mining colonies of Tau 9, and deployed planet cracker warheads against any system harboring fugitives. It didn't work. Every atrocity bred 10 new insurgents. Every destroyed colony sent survivors fleeing with blueprints for cheap, deadly weapons. The 𝗕𝗲 had spent millennia perfecting the art of crushing civilizations, but humanity refused to be civilized in its defeat. On the ruined world of Eridani II, scavengers found the wreck of a Dominion surveillance drone. Its data cores contained footage of the Titan's last stand, copied and corrupted across 1,000 rebel networks. The images were grainy, but the message was clear: giants could fall. A new breed of warrior emerged from the outer systems. They called themselves Titan's children, tattooing Vance's last coordinates onto their skin. Their ships flew with inverted colors, black hulls, white insignias, the inverse of 𝗕𝗲𝘀 livery. They attacked without warning, striking at night cycle when Dominion crews were weakest. The Dominion's grip began slipping. Outlying sectors declared independence. Client species rebelled. Their mighty fleets found themselves stretched thin, forced to fight on 100 fronts against an enemy that refused to stand still. On Earth's ruined surface, in the shadow of toppled skyscrapers, someone painted the Titan S hull number across the remains of the United Nations building. Below it, a single phrase in 20 languages. Asterisk, you should have killed us all. Asterisk, the war wasn't over. But for the first time since the stars had known the 𝗕𝗲𝘀's name, something unprecedented happened. The Dominion began retreating. The retreat became a rout. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 dreadnoughts that had once darkened skies across the Orion Arm now burned in high orbit over 100 worlds. Their shattered hulls told the same story: improvised plasma cutters breaching reactor cores, kinetic spikes punching through command decks, entire fleets lured into asteroid fields where crude IEDs waited. The Titan's children grew bolder. They stopped hitting supply lines and started taking shipyards. At Cygnus Prime, rebels wearing scavenged Dominion armor walked straight onto an orbital drydock and detonated antimatter charges in the main cradle. The explosion lit up the night side of the planet for 3 full rotations. High Command fractured. Younger warlords demanded total extermination of every human-occupied system. Elder tacticians warned of overextension. Their debates turned violent. A senior strategist was found floating in his quarters with a monofilament wire embedded in his carotid artery. The assassin left a note: asterisk, you should have surrendered when you had the chance. Asterisk. Humanity's surviving admirals convened on the derelict station Persephone's Gate. They pored over battle footage, searching for patterns. One truth emerged: the Dominion never adapted. Their tactics remained pristine, perfect, predictable. A plan took shape. On the edge of Dominion space, a single modified freighter broadcast distress calls. When the patrol ships responded, they found the crew dead, suicide pills still clenched in their teeth. The ship's holds were packed with data crystals containing every human military secret, every weakness, every failed strategy. It was a gift. And a trap. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 analysts consumed the information greedily. Their next 20 engagements were flawless victories. Human ships died in droves, their tactics anticipated, their movements countered before they began. Then the trap sprang. At the Battle of Charon's Belt, 3 full Dominion battle groups walked straight into a minefield of collapsed neutron star matter, the one substance their shields couldn't detect. The resulting gravity vortices tore their formations apart. Titan's children boarding parties found the flagship's data cores still analyzing the false intelligence. The message to High Command was brief: asterisk, your turn to learn. Asterisk. On Earth, beneath the ruins of old Geneva, archaeologists uncovered a pre-spaceflight text. The brittle pages contained a phrase that spread through the rebellion like wildfire. Asterisk, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Asterisk. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 had studied humanity. Humanity had studied war. The balance shifted. Dominion worlds began falling silent. First the outer colonies, then the core systems. Their last transmission from the homeworld wasn't a surrender, it was a single, furious demand. Asterisk. What are you? Asterisk. The reply came from 1,000 human ships, their guns silent, their Vox channels open. Asterisk. The reckoning. Asterisk. And then the real war began. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 homeworld burned. Not from orbital bombardment or plasma fire, but from within. Their perfect society unraveled at the seams as the truth became inescapable. The species they dismissed as weak, as primitive, as inferior, had outmaneuvered them at every turn. The first cracks appeared in their military caste. Younger warriors, raised on tales of invincibility, found themselves broken by human persistence. Veterans who had conquered galaxies now trembled at reports of single human gunships approaching their positions. The Dominion's discipline, once ironclad, dissolved into paranoia and betrayal. Human forces didn't need to storm their capital. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 tore it apart themselves. On the ashes of their high command, the last surviving warlord broadcast an unconditional surrender. The transmission reached every corner of known space, shattering millennia of Dominion supremacy in a single moment. Humanity's response was silence. Not the silence of mercy, but the silence of a predator watching wounded prey. The Titan's children gathered their fleets at the edge of 𝗕𝗲 space and waited. Let them sweat. Let them beg. Let them learn what it meant to live in fear. When the peace delegation finally arrived, they came bearing gifts, planetary titles, technology caches, even offers of genetic integration. The human admiral overseeing negotiations listened politely, then slid a data crystal across the table. It contained footage from the first human colony the 𝗕𝗲 had glassed. "Your terms are rejected," the admiral said. "Here are ours." The demands were simple. Total disarmament, open borders, war crime tribunals, and one final condition: every surviving 𝗕𝗲 would wear a neural monitor for 3 generations, ensuring they could never again raise a hand against another species. The warlord protested. "This is slavery." The admiral smiled. "No. Slavery is what you did to others. This is accountability." Across the galaxy, former slave worlds erupted in celebration. Humans didn't join them. They stood watch instead, weapons ready, eyes scanning the stars. They'd learned the oldest lesson of war: victory wasn't the end. It was just the pause between battles. On the rebuilt walls of Earth's last standing monument, someone carved new words beneath the Titan's hull number. "We remember." The 𝗕𝗲 had thought humanity's greatest strength was its defiance. They were wrong. It was their memory. And memory kept the guns loaded.